Today's lesson is Unit 1, Lesson 17, and you can follow along on page 55 and 56 of your practice book. Please get your practice book and open it up to those pages now, then press play to continue on with the video. Today, we are going to be talking about input-output tables, and the best way to start talking about that is to introduce you to my friend, the rule robot, okay? The rule robot starts with a number. Let's do number 5. Then that number 5 travels down into his stomach, and it follows a certain rule. Now, I might say, well, my rule is multiply by 2. Now, every number that gets to his stomach, you have to multiply by 2. So 5 times 2 would be 10. I put in 5, and my output is 10. I can change these numbers around. So if I put in 3, my output would be different. I still need to apply my rule, so 3 times 2 is 6. Hopefully my rule robot is pretty familiar to you. This time, I'm going to change it up just a bit. If my outcome, or my output, is 12, what number would I need to put in to my robot? What times 2 is 12? Hopefully you're thinking 6 times 2 is 12. I can change the rule of my rule robot depending on what my input and my output is. In the example you see in front of you, you can see that I've given you the input and the output, but I haven't told you the rule that my rule robot is following. You should ask, what do I need to do to 3 to get to 12? I know that my output is bigger than my input, so that means I need to either add or multiply. 3 plus 9 is 12, or 3 times 4 is 12. So my rule could either be plus 9 or times 4. I'm going to give you another example to see if you can figure out what my rule is. If my input is 5 and my output is 20, can we decide what my rule would be? Well, 5 times 4 is 20. 5, I'm going to change my color here. 5 times 4 is 20. So I know that adding 9 is not my rule for this table. Now that I figured out my rule, I have to follow that rule to fill in the rest of my input and output table, okay? So I might have 24 as my output. What do I need? 4 times what is 24? Well, I know 6 needs to go in order to be multiplied by 4 and get to 24. Now that we've reviewed using my rule robot, it's time to practice at a little more of a 4th grade level. You should be on page 55 of your practice book. Let's look at this very first input-output table. This looks a little bit similar to what we did with our robot. I have 7 going in and 42 going out. Then I have a few blanks here that I'm not sure what they are. I also have 6 going in and 36 coming out. When my input is smaller than my output, or I'm going bigger, I know that I need to either multiply or add. I'm not really sure what 7 times what is 42, because that's a little bit hard for me and I don't like my 7s. So instead, I'm going to focus on my 4 and my 24. 4 times what is 24? Let's count by 4s. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. Well, 4 times 6 is 24. Let's double check that. Is 6 times 6 36? Yes, it is. Now, Once my rule has been repeated with 2 of my different inputs here, I can make that my complete rule, times 6. And I have to apply it to all of my inputs getting to my outputs. So let's just add that there, times 6, times 6, times 6, and times 6. With my rule identified, I can clearly add in my blank spaces. Let's do that now. 8 times 6, 6 times 8 is 48. What times 6 is 54? Hopefully you're thinking 9 times 6 is 54. The last blank I have to fill in is 5 times 6. 5 times 6 is 30. Great, we figured out our first input-output table. Let's move to number 2. Number 2 is a little different. You'll notice that my input is 81 and my output is 9. My input is bigger than my output, so that means I need to either divide or subtract. I don't really like dividing and subtracting, so I'm going to think from output to input. I know 9 times 9 gets me to 81 if I'm going this way. But instead of multiplying, I need to divide. So, to get it smaller, so I'm going to change my multiplication here to division. Dividing by 9. Do you see how I did that? I looked from my output to my input because I'm more familiar with multiplication, but my rule always does need to be applied input to output. So if I'm multiplying 5 times 9 to get to 45, I know that the opposite of that, or the inverse of that, is divided by 9 to get to 5. Is 5 times 9 45? Yeah, well then 45 divided by 9 is 5. If you're struggling with division, I always encourage you guys, draw your factor triangle. Put the big number on top. Let's put 45 on top. Put your factor down on the bottom. Then I can answer what that question is. Well, I know that 5 times 9 is 45. I can also figure out then that 45 divided by 9 equals 5. That can also help you. So if you're struggling, draw your triangle. My rule for this table is divide by 9. Knowing that rule, I can now fill in my blanks. 72 divided by 9 is what? 9 times what is 72? 9 times 8 is 72, so 72 divided by 9 should be 8. Now I've got my output. I know my rule is divided by 9. I don't have an input, so I'm going to be thinking, all right, 9 times 7 is what? Well, I know that 9 times 7 is 63. Let's double check with the factor triangle here. I'm going to put 63 on top, 9 and 7 as my factors. Is 9 times 7 63? Yep. Then 63 divided by 7 is 9, and 63 divided by 9 is 7. 27 divided by 9 is what? Pause this video and see if you can figure out what 27 divided by 9 would be. Hopefully you drew your factor triangle. I know that 9 times 3 is 27, so therefore 27 divided by 9 is 3. I'm not going to joke around with you. Doing division is definitely more difficult. Doing a rule with division is definitely more difficult than a rule with multiplication. But I can tell right away when I'm looking at my rule table. If my input is bigger, I'm probably going to need to divide or subtract. And if my input is smaller, I will need to multiply. Your job today is to finish numbers 3 and 4. See if you can figure out the rule. Don't forget, if you're dividing, draw your factor triangles to help you out so that you feel more confident. That's your job today. If you finish numbers 3 and 4, and you would like some more practice, You can go on to the input-output graphs, the input-output tables on the next page, on page 56. If you complete all of these 6 input-output tables, you will receive a special prize from Mrs. Holly. That's extra, but challenge yourself if you like input-output tables. And don't forget about my rule robot.